Number 1. Man resists arrest and gets tasered. Back in early October 2022, something intense happened at Huska Park in La Crosse, Wisconsin that left people horrified. It all went down between a La Crosse police officer named Daniel Howe and a guy named Edison Varela, who wasn't exactly cooperating with the officer.
Cross police are responding to an incident that took place at Huska Park back in early October. Video that began circulating on social media.
La Crosse police say an officer's use of force was justified. Police say an officer was responsible.
The park manager had complained about Varela, which is how Officer Howe got involved with the man. The whole showdown got a lot of attention on social media, and a video clip started making the rounds. The clip showed Officer Howe and Varela in the middle of a struggle on the ground. People were freaking out because it seemed like Howe was throwing knee kicks at Varela, and the crowd that had gathered was telling him to back off. But the body cam footage shows a bit of a different side to the story. It turns out that the initial call for help came from an employee of the City of La Crosse Parks and Recreation. The employee reported that Varela had made threats, called him a homophobic slur, and even knocked his hat off.
A La Crosse City Parks and Rec worker tells police he was assaulted by a man, later identified as Edison Varela.
When Officer Howe spotted Varela near the Huska Park Pavilion, he knew he had to do something about it. He approached Varela and confirmed that he had indeed threatened the city employee. Howe then asked for Varela's identification, but instead of cooperating, Varela decided to walk away. Well, that didn't sit well with Officer Howe, so he followed him and repeatedly asked him to stop. Varela, however, didn't comply and tried to get away from the officer. Things quickly spiraled out of control when Howe tried to restrain him. The struggle got intense, and both men ended up on the ground. Unfortunately, the body camera got knocked down during the scuffle, so we couldn't see the visuals, but we could still hear what was going on. Officer Howe resorted to using his taser, but Varela kept on fighting. During the scuffle, the taser wires broke, and Varela even tried to grab the taser from Howe. The officer was forced to stun Varela and finally managed to hold him down. Officer Howe then proceeded to deliver a series of knee strikes to Varela's shoulder to try and subdue him. As this whole showdown went down, a big crowd started gathering around the two men. People started yelling at the officer, telling him to get off Varela, and some even threatened him. Moments later, one of the men from the crowd, named Ronald Wright, attempted to shove Howe off of Varela. Thankfully, more officers arrived on the scene to help Howe, and they managed to get everything under control without any further incidents. Varela was eventually arrested and charged with disorderly conduct, damage to property, and resisting an officer. He was released on a $1,000 signature bond. As for Ronald Wright, he didn't get away scot-free. Wright was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct, resisting an officer, and even felony bail jumping. At first, he had to pay a $1,000 cash bond, but a few weeks later, there was a modification that allowed him to be released on a $1,000 signature bond.
Dude, that cop was bogus. I watched the entire thing, dude, but that was bogus. He tased him. He was already down.
Captain Avery Schott, a spokesperson for the police department, made it clear that Officer Howe's use of force was deemed appropriate in this situation. The individual chose not to want to comply, and sometimes that does happen, even with the best intentions and best efforts of our staff members, Schott said. Our policy is about only using the force necessary to gain that compliance. Things could have gotten pretty bad, but thankfully nobody got seriously hurt during this encounter. However, the next story gets pretty terrifying when officers smash the windows and fire at a vehicle with kids inside. Number 2, traffic stop gone out of control. In a seemingly ordinary traffic stop that took an unexpected turn, a 14-year-old found himself in the middle of a chaotic scene involving a state cop, a high-speed chase, and shots fired at a fleeing minivan full of kids between the ages of 6 and 16. The incident took place on October 28, 2013, when Oriana Farrell, a woman from Memphis, Tennessee, was allegedly pulled over for speeding at 71 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone on a state highway near Teos.
The minivan driving mom who state police shot at.
State police ended up firing Officer Elias Montoya for that shooting. He is now a Taos County deputy.
Caught on a dashboard camera, the officer instructed her to turn off her vehicle and remain in place before returning to his car. However, she made, shall we say, the daring decision to drive away, instigating a chase.
We're on flight 18 right now.
The trooper managed to catch up and to pull Farrell over once again, repeatedly yelling at her to step out of the car.
Get out of the vehicle right now! I'm telling you right now!
Despite his demands, she refused to comply, while her terrified children in the minivan pleaded for the officer to leave their mother alone and back off. Farrell then tried to talk things out with the officer, but the time for talk had passed. When the officer instructed her to turn around, Farrell abruptly sprinted back towards her minivan. The officer managed to grab hold of her, resulting in another struggle.
I stopped you. I'm trying to tell you what to do, and you take off. You understand what you just did? That is what happened. I said, stop right there. I'll be right back, okay? And you took off. Turn around and face your vehicle. Ma'am, listen to me.
This is when Farrell's 14-year-old son emerged from the minivan and began walking toward the officer. An altercation ensued briefly, but after the officer brandished his taser, the teenager quickly retreated back into the vehicle. As additional officers arrived at the scene for backup, the first officer resorted to using his baton, smashing one of the rear windows while the family screamed in distress. Seizing this opportunity, the minivan sped away, prompting another officer to fire what seemed to be 3 shots at the fleeing vehicle. Farrell led the state police on a high-speed chase into Taos before finally surrendering in front of a hotel. Both Farrell and her 14-year-old son were subsequently arrested. The mother faced charges of child abuse, fleeing, and misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia. The state police claimed to have discovered 2 marijuana pipes in the minivan. As for her son, he was charged with battery of an officer. The officer responsible for firing shots at the minivan, Elias Montoya, was later dismissed from the department in December 2013. It was found that he had violated the department's policy on the use of deadly force. Montoya maintained that he was unaware that the majority of the individuals inside the vehicle were children, as the minivan's tinted windows prevented him from seeing clearly. When the driver attempted to flee for the second time, he aimed for the tire, intending to immobilize the vehicle by shooting at it. My heart sank when they finally stopped, and I was at the passenger side at the time, seeing them get out at gunpoint, he said. I couldn't believe that there were that many children in there. He also added, if I knew that there was even one child in that vehicle, he said, I wouldn't have done it. If you thought this incident was wild, then wait till you hear the next story, where a police car crashes into the right car, but with the wrong people inside. Number 3, cops crash into the wrong car. On September 25th, the Fairfax County Police Department was searching for a wanted car, believed to be occupied by armed and dangerous individuals. They spotted a silver sedan matching the description driving along Richmond Highway and South Kings Highway in the Mount Vernon district. In an attempt to conduct a felony vehicle stop, the police encountered an unexpected turn of events. Although the car was the correct one, the occupants inside were not the suspects they were seeking.
An Alexandria mother is demanding an apology and more from Fairfax County Police after they intentionally ran into her car with her children inside it.
Police say they were responding to an alert on the car she was driving.
Jamie Kimball, a new mother who had given birth just 6 days prior, was driving the car with her friend and 2 children en route to Walmart when they were stopped by the police. The situation quickly escalated when a police vehicle collided with her silver sedan. Jamie posted a video on her personal Instagram account after the crash, expressing her frustration toward the police officers. She claimed that the police did not signal her to pull over and did not use their lights or sirens before crashing into her car. The Fairfax police acknowledged the collision but clarified that it occurred at a speed of only 10 miles per hour, while Jamie, however, insists that it was much higher. She stated that due to the rapid sequence of events, her main focus was on her pain and the well-being of her children who were in the back seat. Adding to the distress, the incident took place just 6 days after Jamie underwent a C-section and was still in the process of healing. According to Jamie, the officers aimed their guns at her and her friend, subsequently handcuffing them.
Well, I don't know what protocol is, but they drew their guns at me and my friend from both sides of the car.
The Fairfax police explained that the car was connected to an incident in Arlington County, and the occupants were flagged as armed and dangerous in a national database. However, Jamie can be heard in the video informing the police that she couldn't have been involved because she was in the hospital giving birth when the Arlington incident occurred.
On top of the shock, Jamie was still healing from a C-section birth just days earlier.
They stopped the wrong person here on Richmond Highway, y'all.
In a subsequent statement, the police provided their account of events, stating that they performed a felony stop and detained the car's occupants. They confirmed that the car was indeed the correct one they were searching for, but the individuals inside were not connected to the Arlington incident. Further information confirmed the stopped vehicle was the wanted vehicle involved in an incident in Arlington County, and they requested the car be stopped so the occupants could be identified, the police statement said. It was discovered that the car had recently been transferred into Jamie's name, but the DMV records had not been updated with the new ownership information. After verifying the identities of the occupants and determining that they were not the owners, the police released them.
I could have lost my life. My kids could have lost their lives. Luckily, everyone in the car was in his seatbelt.
Jamie was also offered emergency medical assistance and was taken to the hospital by fire and rescue personnel present at the scene. Jamie believes that an apology from the department is warranted for her and her family.
I'm very angry and more than anything hurt because I teach my children that the police are supposed to protect us and that if they need anything, that they can call them for help.
She feels that the emotional impact of the incident will have everlasting effects on her and her children. The Fairfax County Police Department has announced that they are conducting an administrative review of the incident, although specific details about the review are currently unknown. If you want to keep up with the latest updates and news on these cases, then please subscribe to the channel.